The President of the United States had a meeting today, followed by a press conference that no other president in history has ever had to have. The Majority Leader of the Senate had a meeting today, followed by a press conference that no other Majority Leader of the United States Senate has ever had to have in the history of the Senate. The President and the Senate Majority Leader are both in the same political party, but they had to have a meeting today, followed by a press conference, to try to prove that they don't hate each other. And I mean hate each other with every fiber of their being. But we know that Donald Trump has given Mitch McConnell more reason to hate him than any president has ever given a Senate Majority Leader. And we know that Donald Trump uses Twitter as a tool of his hatred, and that no president has ever launched public attacks on the Senate Majority Leader of his own party until now. Can you believe that Mitch McConnell, who has screamed repeal and replace for 7 years, couldn't get it done? Must repeal and replace Obamacare! Exclamation point. And of course, the only problem I have with Mitch McConnell is that after hearing repeal and replace for 7 years, he failed. That should never have happened! Exclamation point. Here is the first lie of many lies that President Trump told in the Rose Garden today.
I just want to say that we just spent quite a bit of time inside with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, who has been a friend of mine for a long time, long before my world of politics, early into his world of politics, I think. But we've been friends for a long time. We are probably now, despite what we read, we're probably now, I think, at least as far as I'm concerned, closer than ever before. And the relationship is very good.
Closer than ever before. This was an emergency meeting at the White House today. It was an emergency meeting of a political party in crisis, a crisis of chaos. It was an emergency meeting to tell that lie that you just heard, that Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump are friends. Never been closer. Because this weekend, Steve Bannon, who went from running a right-wing, hate-driven website to the Trump campaign, to the Trump White House, and is now back at that website, said that he will oppose any Republican senator's re-election if that senator does not attack Republican Senator Bob Corker, pledge to support the elimination of filibusters in the Senate, and pledge to vote against Mitch McConnell for Majority Leader.
All of you folks that are so concerned that you're going to get primaried and defeated, you know, there's time for mea culpa. You can come to a stick and condemn Senator Corker. And you can come to a stick, a microphone, and you can say, I am not going to vote for Mitch McConnell for Majority Leader. And you can come to a stick and you can say, I'm going to do away with the filibuster so the president can implement his program.
You have never seen that before. This is the worst chaos that has ever existed in modern political parties. Will Rogers once famously said, I am not a member of any organized political party. I am a Democrat. And it is true that for most of the 20th century, the Republican Party was more disciplined than the Democratic Party. The first time an incumbent president was challenged for renomination within his own party, it was a Democrat who did that. Eugene McCarthy ran against his old friend, President Lyndon Johnson, for the 1968 Democratic nomination. But Gene McCarthy had one rule when he started that campaign. He would not attack the president personally. No one has ever quit working in a senior advisory role in a Democratic White House and then instantly begun attacking the Democratic leader of the Senate or the Democratic leader of the House of Representatives. We have never seen this kind of open, public chaos in a political party. And anyone who tries to compare any of the stresses within the Democratic Party to what's happening within the Republican Party now is just wrong. Totally and wildly wrong. There is no comparison. There has never been chaos like this in a political party because Donald Trump has never been the highest ranking member of a political party until now. This is Trumpian chaos that you are watching. Mitch McConnell has served 32 years in the United States Senate, 1/3 of that time as the Republican leader in the Senate, and this is his first year of chaos in the United States Senate. There are some Democrats in the Senate who have vehemently opposed everything that Mitch McConnell has ever tried to do in the Senate, but all of those Democrats recognize that Mitch McConnell is a careful and deliberate and formidable Senate strategist. And those Democrats know that no Republican leader of the Senate has ever bent and contorted the rules of the Senate to favor the Republicans more than Mitch McConnell has, including Mitch McConnell's decision to refuse to allow President Obama's Supreme Court nominee to get even a vote in the Senate, not even a vote in a committee. A completely unprecedented partisan move against both Senate tradition and the constitutional intent of the Senate confirmation process. There has never been a more sharply partisan Republican leader of the Senate than Mitch McConnell. To believe that Mitch McConnell is the Republicans' biggest problem in the Senate requires that you understand absolutely nothing about the United States Senate or the politics of governing. Enter Donald Trump and Steve Bannon, who understand nothing about the Senate, who understand nothing about the politics of governing. And so the Democrats cannot believe their luck tonight. Senate Democrats thought it was their job to fight Mitch McConnell every day, and that is their job legislatively in the United States Senate. And most of them do that without ever launching personal attacks on Mitch McConnell. And now the Democrats are watching the most vicious personal attacks that have ever been launched on a Senate Majority Leader, and they are coming from the leader's own party. They are coming from a former Trump campaign official, a former Trump White House official. And while Donald Trump is asked about those attacks today, he does not offer one word of defense of his fake friend, Mitch McConnell.
Mr. President, do you approve of Steve Bannon's war on Mitch McConnell and the Republican establishment?
Well, Steve is very committed. He's a friend of mine, and he's very committed to getting things passed. I mean, look, I have, despite what the press writes, I have great relationships with actually many senators, but in particular with most Republican senators. But we're not getting the job done. And I'm not going to blame myself, I'll be honest. They are not getting the job done. We've had health care approved, and then you had a surprise vote by John McCain. We've had other things happen, and they're not getting the job done. And I can understand where Steve Bannon's coming from.
That was this morning before the president's lunch with Mitch McConnell. I can understand where Steve Bannon is coming from. That's what the president had to say about the Steve Bannon war on Mitch McConnell. The question was about Steve Bannon's war on Mitch McConnell. President Trump didn't say, I can understand where Mitch McConnell is coming from. He said, I can understand where Steve Bannon is coming from. The president said that in the cabinet room at a meeting of the cabinet this morning, the only cabinet in history with a member who is reported to have called the president a moron, and who for weeks now has steadfastly refused to deny that he called the president a moron. Rex Tillerson is making sure that the moron story never dies.
As I indicated earlier when I was asked about that, I'm not going to deal with that kind of petty stuff. I mean, this is a town that seems to relish gossip, rumor, innuendo, and they feed on it. They feed on one another in a very destructive way. I don't work that way. I don't deal that way, and I'm just not going to dignify the question. I'm not playing. These are the games of Washington. I'm not dignifying the question with an answer.
The question, which should have been in there, was, did you call the president a moron? Jake Tapper asked that question yesterday on CNN. Every time the Secretary of State refuses to deny that he called the president a moron, he is publicly calling the president a moron, and he knows it. And it will be incumbent now on every interviewer of Rex Tillerson to continue to ask him if he called the president a moron before, of course, moving on to the more important issues of what's going to happen next with North Korea and Iran. The moron story just might live in the Trump presidency forever, and Rex Tillerson just might be able to keep the moron story alive forever. And Rex Tillerson has every personal incentive to do that, because one of the features of the chaos presidency is that the president has publicly attacked his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, and publicly egged him on to resign, as the president did with his Attorney General, who was also at that cabinet meeting today. Legislating is hard. It is almost indescribably hard. It is the hardest thing that Donald Trump has ever been involved in his life. The complexity of the interaction of the congressional committees, the sequencing of the votes in the House, in the Senate, the budget factors, the budget rules, the compromising that adds votes to a bill, and usually that kind of stuff usually takes most of a year for big legislation, and is an all-consuming passion for everyone seriously involved in that legislative endeavor, as, say, President Obama was in the passage of Obamacare. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong in this kind of legislation, and it is the job of everyone involved to try to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And if there's a moron in the mix at the highest level, then everyone knows who to blame when things do go wrong. Steve Bannon knows who the moron is. Steve Bannon knows who is to blame for the zero legislative accomplishments of the Trump administration. But Steve Bannon has chosen to blame Mitch McConnell. Senator Lindsey Graham knows what this kind of chaos means for the Republican Party. Everyone loses. Everyone. Very much including Donald Trump.
Steve Bannon has said that Republicans should go to war against Mitch McConnell, that all y'all should get rid of him, and that should be the Republican rallying cry.
Mitch McConnell's not our problem. Our problem is that we promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, and we failed. We promised to cut taxes, and we've yet to do it. If we're successful, Mitch McConnell's fine. If we're not, we're all in trouble. We lose our majority, and I think President Trump will not get reelected.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.